The two cards I will be attempting to crack today, sonically sealed. Really curious to see how hard it actually is. Kind of want to just try to open it with my hands. But there we go, almost completed this page. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Shadow Realm for another video where today I'm going to be cracking some cards for the YuGiOh binder. Alright, so the slabs I'm going to be cracking today are these two slabs. This is a PSA slab. This is a PSA 7 of the Harpy's Feather Duster Prismatic Secret Rare from the World Championship Tournament 2004 Game Boy Advance game. This was a huge kind of card from my childhood. I remember having this in the Game Boy Advance game. Like, I put so many hours into that game as well. Absolutely love it. So much nostalgia behind that. The second slab that we're going to be cracking here is an ARC grading slab, ARK. So this is an Australian grading company. They're kind of really early to the kind of computer grading. I don't think it's AI graded, but it's like computer graded. So it has subgrades and everything, but they were an early player to the whole computer grading thing. This is one of their slabs, honestly really nice. But this is an SDYA. So this is an Australian starter deck Yugi first edition Dark Magician. I need this for the binder as well. But those are the two cards I will be attempting to crack today. Now, I've never actually cracked slabs before, so this should be interesting. I've seen it done many times online, and all the times I've seen it done, it looks pretty difficult, to be honest, and it looks kind of really clumsy because of how hard it is. So I'm actually really curious to see how hard it actually is. So I've got a host of tools here. These are like the usual suspects that people kind of tell you to get when you're kind of cracking slabs. So I've got some of the tools here. Now, outside of cards, I'm actually a car guy. I'm a car enthusiast. So I'm always working and tinkering on my own car. And I always like to think of myself as kind of mechanically minded. So I always am interested and curious to see how things actually work. So before we actually start cracking slabs, I kind of want to have a look at them and see how they kind of really work. All right, so starting out here with the PSA slab. This is the PSA 7 Harpy's Feather Duster. So if you look online on how PSA slabs are sealed, it's pretty like, I guess, common knowledge now, but they are sonically sealed. So what that means is the two halves of the slab, the two pieces of plastic, are pressed together and vibrated so fast in sonic speeds that it actually creates a weld around the edge where the plastic touches. Now, being the mechanical Neanderthal that I am, this sounds kind of woo-woo if you ask me, because I don't understand it. But I'm sure it is actually a thing, because if you look closely at the edges of the slab here, you can actually see where it's kind of welded together. So you can see the kind of seal that it's created where the plastic kind of connects. Honestly, looking at it, you can't really see that it's like too much of a crazy seal, but I guess it is definitely sealed. In some places, like the edge on the left edge here, you can definitely see that it is more sealed than like other spots. So just looking at it with the naked eye, that's kind of what I can see. On the top here, there's like these three really kind of weird different colored bits of plastic. So maybe there's like a little ledge there, or maybe that's where it's kind of sealed in more. But yeah, honestly, when you watch the videos of it being done, it happens in like less than a second, and it looks like just a regular press. I guess there is this like weird sound that plays in these videos. It's this giant aluminium block that drops down on the two halves and supposedly vibrates so fast that it welds the two pieces together. Like, I know I'm sounding like a crazy skeptic because I don't understand how it works. I'm not doubting it at all, but yeah, I'm just really curious to see how hard it is to actually open one of these. So on that note, before we go with the tools, I kind of want to just try to open it with my hands. So if it is welded all the way across, I wonder if I can like break the weld with my hands, because it's not that, I guess it's not that thick. It feels like maybe I could break the weld or the seal with my hands. So let's go with the hands first before we do any tools. And yeah, I'm not too worried about kind of damaging cards, I guess, because PSA 7, it's not like gem mint or anything. Although this Harpy's Feather Duster is not the cheapest card in the world. This specific Prismatic Feather Duster promo is still kind of expensive. I think it's like one of the preferred rarities maybe to use in competitive decks, because Duster is still a very usable card. So I think the price is still like around 90, 100 bucks, but I got this for a steal in a PSA 7. So I think a great candidate to kind of try my first cracking experience on. But with that being said, let's throw some gloves on and give this a go. All right, so I got some gloves on. Let me be quiet and let me see if we can hear if I can actually like crack the kind of seal of the welds on the edge and top here. But let's give this a go. All right, we definitely heard something, guys. So I did hear a little bit of a thing around the edge. I think you can actually see it. So I think you can actually see where I've started to separate kind of the seal, the bottom and the sides. You can definitely see more. And then the top, so these three things on the top, I feel like maybe these 3 spots on the top are where the back piece is more oversized to kind of like wedge in. Cause like that was a big kind of pop or a big crack from the top section. And I feel like it's coming apart more on this top. Like it's definitely moving. I'm not sure if you can see on camera, but that bit's definitely moving a lot. So, very interesting. Okay, so you heard that big crack. That was the seal on this section kind of breaking, and it's kind of just coming apart now. So I feel like we can kind of just almost pull it apart. Careful here. Careful. Okay, so there you go. You can open it by hand. So it did kind of crack kind of weird on this bottom corner because I kind of rushed it. But there is your YuGiOh card. It's got the back sleeve. Very nice from PSA how they put the back sleeve on the YuGiOh cards. Let's get the gloves off and kind of assess how we did. All right, so here is the card. So it looks like we came away pretty unscathed. There is the back sleeve. Again, it is a PSA 7, so like it wasn't perfect condition to start with. The main thing was this really badass kind of scratch on the front foil here. Not sure if you guys can see, but there is the front scratch. The card looks pretty good, honestly. Let me try to get some good lighting. So the card looks pretty good. PSA 7, fair grade in my opinion. Let's put this to the side and kind of assess the slab, because this was really what I was more interested in. So we have the 2 halves of the slab here. It does look sealed, honestly. Like, I know I was being a bit like a skeptic in the beginning with the whole sonic sealing thing. It's because I don't understand the technology. So it does look like there is an actual real seal on the front piece here. You can kind of see where it is sort of welded together, if you will. Pretty crazy if you ask me. Like, if you've seen the process of how it's done, how quickly it happens, in order for it to actually create like a seal like this is some pretty crazy technology. But yeah, because of how thin the slab is, I thought I would be able to kind of separate the 2 pieces by hand. Like, definitely the first time I picked up a PSA slab, I honestly thought I could have opened it with my hands. So this kind of proves it, but it is sealed, guys. It is an actual thing. Now, across the top here where we saw those 3 kind of weird things, I definitely think maybe something is going on there. It looks like it's not really sealed on those 3 points. Maybe that's where like the kind of relief is. Well, there goes a label. But maybe that's where like this kind of goes in the top first and then it gets pressed down, or that's where, like, I don't know, something's going on with these 3 things on the top, but that's definitely where we heard the loudest pop initially when I was kind of going at it with my fingers. And then once I kind of broke a main kind of weld or seal at the top here, that's when like it could kind of come apart, and then I took it apart like that. But yeah, PSA slab, still legit, the sonic sealing and everything. Maybe this is a better way to be cracking slabs to avoid the big mess and avoid, like, you know, every time I've seen people do it, they're cracking this plastic, it's going everywhere. And then I've got no problem with using the screwdriver. If you do it properly, you point it sideways and then you kind of lift up to crack it. But the huge thing I see is people always going in like this and pointing the screwdriver like directly to their card. And then of course the inevitable thing that's going to happen is they're going to slip and just jam the screwdriver into their card. So maybe this is a safer option. use some elbow grease, guys, and then you can crack a PSA slab like this. Now, this was a, this was a 90 million kind of numbered slab. I'm not sure if this is one of the newer slabs. In my research for this, I did read that the newer slabs are kind of harder to crack. So I don't know, I've never done this before. I don't know if this is new or old slab, but there is the PSA slab. Let's move on to the next slab. All right, so moving on to the next slab. This is the arc grading slab. Now, just off the bat, initial impressions, I'm not as confident cracking this one with my hands as I am with the PSA slab for a couple of reasons. So the PSA slab, the plastic is great. You know, it's very rigid. Let me just get it back here. So the plastic is great, it is rigid, but it feels sort of thin. And it feels like kind of more, I don't know what you would say, like flexible, right? The arc plastic, whatever they use is like, it's like a CGC slab where like, it's more like acrylic style plastic where like, it's really hard. So like, it's not as flexible in my hands. So that's just number one. And number two is the reason why I was sort of confident that I could crack this one by hand is because the PSA slab between the front and the back layers is like a really defined lip. If you guys have heard of PSA slab, you kind of know what I'm talking about. There's a big lip around the edges between the front and the back layers of the PSA slab. So I always felt like I could get my fingers kind of behind there and like kind of push and separate the two halves. Now with the arc slab, of course it is two separate pieces, but the way it is pressed together or the way it is designed, there is barely any lip here between the two halves. So it's really hard to kind of get leverage and get my finger behind it to actually like force the top off. But hey, I'm gonna give it a shot anyway. So just a quick review of the arc slab here. That's their label. It comes with subgrades, centering, surface edges, corners. Their label is like this dark blue with kind of hollow foil. It's a decent slab, honestly, a decent design. Now the slabs do look great. It is very clear plastic like a CGC slab. But the one thing I'm not a fan of for YuGiOh purposes is the cutout for their slabs doesn't actually fit YuGiOh cards. They fit regular TCG cards like Pokemon, One Piece perfectly. But since YuGiOh cards are Japanese size, they're a bit smaller, they don't have a specific slab size for YuGiOh. And because of that reason, the card kind of moves around really easily. Like if I shake this around, like I don't know if you guys can hear that, but literally the card moves around like that. Like I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's not a great fit. Now for that reason, I kind of like the fact that there is a gap, like the slab doesn't push down super hard on the card, because that's always been like a weird thing in my head with PSA slabs and like other grading company slabs is your card is literally just sandwiched raw between two like hard pieces of plastic. Like yes, for the YuGiOh on the PSA slab, they put that back sleeve, which is really nice. I know BGS puts the full sleeve, which is really nice as well, but like for regular Pokemon cards in PSA slabs and like say like a CGC slab, your card is really just sandwiched between two hard pieces of plastic like this, raw, and kind of everyone accepts that, hey, yeah, it's all good, it's not going to get damaged like that. But in my mind, I don't know, it feels kind of wrong. I know I'm like overreacting, like people have cracked cards from slabs many times and it's fine, but I would never put a card raw in a top loader, a card raw in a one-touch case ever because of damage, you know? So why are we doing it with slabs? It's a conversation for another time really, but let's get moving with the arc slab. Let's get the gloves on and see if we can open this guy with our hands. All right, so starting out with the arc slab here, like I said, it is much like stiffer, harder plastic, so not as flexible. Let's start with the long edge here, the side, see if we can hear anything. Okay guys, so a lot of sound. The slab is fine. The sound is coming from the welds separating, okay? So the top, we've actually done enough where the top, just like the PSA slab in this top corner, has actually kind of almost fully separated from the top. It's like, it's creating a gap. It's creating a gap where I can get my finger or I guess like something to pry it out. But let's go a bit more with the hands to see if we can get the welds to crack a bit more. Yeah, let's keep going. All right, so I think at this point I want to try to just separate the two pieces, the two halves. Let's try to take our time a bit more. It's like I could at this point put a screwdriver in and just kind of run it across the top and the side here to get it to separate the welds more. But let's just try to go with the hands. Ooh, okay, so that did actually crack the slab, that one there. I was trying to separate the weld here because this side was loose and it was getting held here, so I was trying to loosen this weld. I think I did it, but I went too far and actually cracked the slab top piece there. Let me see if I can just separate the two pieces now. Okay, there is the arc slab cracked. Let's take the card out. It's the card, you have your label in the top. Let's get the gloves off and kind of try to assess. All right, so let's get our Dark Magician here, SDYA, so Australian First Edition. So of course, being from Australia, this card was a huge part of my childhood. The ultra rare SDY Dark Magician First Edition. Very nice. So it was an Arc 5. It is kind of rough. It's got some scuffs. There's like these weird like dots. I don't know if people call this mold or something, but there is stuff on the bottom. The front is actually pretty decent and the foil is clean. So that is as much as I can ask for. Very, very cool. That is the Dark Magician. Cracked from its slab. And then let's have a look at the slab itself. So it was a little bit more difficult than the PSA because of how hard the plastic is. Like, it is much harder. It's much clearer though, just like a CGC slab, like I've been saying. But again, the welds on the outside, it is actually welded. The skeptic, the cynic in me always wants to check that. Their label, very interesting. Is it glued in? Their label feels like it is actually glued into the back here, or it's stuck in there. It is a very nice label though. It's got raised lettering. I'm not sure how they print this every single time. You got your subgrades there. You've got the hollow foil actual grade. And then the back, there's actually a chip. I think this is an NFC chip. Yeah, NFC chip with your QR code for the arc grading the seal here. But there is the arc grading slab kind of cracked. All right, so before I give my final thoughts and takeaways on the whole slab cracking, let's get the cards into the binder because that's the reason I did this whole thing in the first place. So let's get our two cards here and sleeve them up. So the sleeves I use for my binder are just these Dragon Shield white mats. I know these sleeves are kind of meant more for playing, I think, but I like to use them for the binder just because of the kind of aesthetic that they give. So the Harpy's Feather Duster, let's give it one more look before we put it in the sleeve. Again, it's got that unfortunate scratch in the foil there, but for the price I paid, I really cannot complain. So I got this thing for a steal. There is the Harpy's Feather Duster. The sleeve is still pretty clear, honestly, Dragon Shields. I am happy with them. They're not the clearest, but they are clear enough, I think, in my opinion. But there is the Harpies, the Dark Magician here. Let's sleeve this thing up. Again, an Arc 5. Maybe I should honestly try to clean this thing up a bit more, especially on the back. I think there is potential to clean this thing up a bit better and have it looking a bit better for the binder. But there's the two cards. Let me get my YuGiOh binder here. This is the binder. Do I need to zoom the camera out? Let's zoom the camera out a little bit. All right, so here's the binder. The light is just destroying it right now. But as you can see, this is the front page. Eventually one day I will do kind of a binder, full binder update, show you guys this whole thing one time in the near future, hopefully. But for now, I won't show the full thing, but the Dark Magician, of course, goes in the top. There we go. That's his spot right there. You can guess what goes here. And then this bottom row, I'll explain it more later. But the Harpy's Feather Duster. So this is page 2 and 3 of the binder here. The Harpy's Feather Duster, of course, it goes down here. So it is a game promo WC4 E003. So this is the spot for the duster. But there we go, almost completed this page. But yeah, like I said, I'll do a complete binder update in the near future one day, but that is the first 3 pages of my binder for now. But yeah, let's get back to the slab cracking and I'll give you my final thoughts. So going into this whole thing, I did of course look up how these slabs are actually sealed and put together. So of course, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, they are sonically sealed. And of course, going into it, I'd never heard of sonic sealing plastics before. So of course I had to look it up. I looked up the process, how it works. Honestly, if you look it up for yourself, the process is like so fast. It's hard to believe that it actually does anything, but it does do something. It does seal the 2 pieces of plastic together in like those milliseconds. Again, being the mechanical Neanderthal that I am, in order to like weld plastics together, it involves like high friction, high heat, and just like more of a process. I'm expecting it to take longer than like half a second, but it definitely is sealed. The 2 pieces of plastic are definitely kind of welded, if you would, together. They're not just kind of press fit in there. So working forward from there, knowing that it's actually sealed, the next kind of logical thing in my mind was, okay, it's actually sealed. Looking at the point of where it's actually sealed, it's like, it's really thin. When you're talking about a weld or a joint, when you're talking about like metal, sheet metal, thin welds are just not as good as thicker welds. What can I say? Like a thin weld is not as strong. So when you're looking at slabs, the weld is so thin. Of course, it is enough to hold the 2 pieces together. I'm not sure if it's enough to like water seal something like this, but I'm sure people have already tested. But logically thinking, if you can just crack that thin weld, the thin joint, like all the way around, logically thinking you would be able to separate the 2 pieces, right? So just by hands, because like I felt in my hands the PSA slab, the PSA plastic was kind of flexible enough, because you can kind of do this to it. Just doing that, I kind of felt like it was enough to crack the weld. So I thought I could crack the welds with hand. I was able to crack with hand. I was able to open it with my hands. It's not a bad thing, but it kind of just shows that you don't really need like to go crazy with the pliers, with the snippers, with the clippers, with the screwdriver, plastic everywhere. Like it's not that hard, guys. It's not some kind of crazy ultra mega seal. It's literally just a thin plastic weld that you just need to crack, separate, and then you'll be able to open the 2 pieces. So yeah guys, as we come to a close here, I just want to emphasize that point one more time. The fact that I was able to open these slabs with my hands does not in any way mean that these slabs are bad or they're poorly designed. It is really just a limitation of what these slab companies are working with here. The amount of material they can use, the amount of thickness of the welds they can do. Like, unless you want them to be including like a super thick weld around the edges or something like that, it's pretty much what you can expect. Now, yes, while I do agree that having a slab that is hard to open is a positive, of course, a lot of the time when people send their cards to be graded, it's for card protection. They want their cards to be protected. So having a slab that is somewhat hard to open is, of course, very valuable. But of course, the other factor that people are looking for when they send their cards to get graded is that authentication and that authenticity guarantee. So in that respect, the role of the seal, the role of the encapsulation is really just to be tamper proof. So in that case, I think most slabs and most slab companies with the whole kind of plastic welding do achieve the kind of tamper-proof goal with the plastic welding. But yeah, just another thing to think about with these slabs. They are not meant to be indestructible or unopenable. It's really just for a elevated level of protection and the tamper-proof factor. So in that respect, I think these do achieve that goal. But yeah guys, that was today's video. That was cracking slabs for the binder. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know if you guys have like similar thought process to me. Let me know if you guys have ever tried this before. I was definitely super interested going into it. I always thought I would be able to do this maybe, but it looked pretty difficult online and all the other videos that I saw, but there you go. That proves it. You can actually open a slab with your hands. So it doesn't mean that it's bad in any way. It just means that, yeah, you can literally open it with your hands. Don't overthink it. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know if you want me to open a BGS slab, a CGC slab, any other slab with my hands. I'll try it if you guys want to see it. But those were the slabs today. Again, like I mentioned, I will be doing a full kind of binder update sometime in the near future. I've kind of almost finished the kind of collection and set goals that I have for that binder. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Well, with that being said, guys, that was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm interested to hear your guys' comments. So if you want, leave a comment below and I'll see you guys in the next one.